Hello, I'm King of Piper. I won the Danish National Championship of 2025 on Cindra, Blue Line. In the finals, I fatigued the win set. Ask me questions. I have the Danish National Championship stream open here for the Cindra mirror in the semifinals, and I have thoughts on it. Now, before I get into the meat of that, I want a couple things out of the way. First of all, I'm armchair theorizing here. These players are in a tournament setting. Nothing I say is against them. All the respect for being in the top 8 with Cindra, especially on bad decks. The other thing is that I'm not really coming up with a script here. I've looked at the first turns a lot, but I'm just gonna talk through the whole game from there, from the attacker's perspective mostly, and how I would have sequenced things differently. I have a vague idea how the deck lists look, but I haven't looked at them in detail, and so I might be missing considerations that exist, but some of the things should be applicable regardless of whatever else the other 55 cards are, except the 5 you're looking at right now. And the third thing is, this is my first video on anything, so feedback welcome, but be like gentle and stuff, please. And let's get into it. So, as far as I know, both of our players are red line. However, Jordan has more blues and has Spreading Flames and similar fungs going on in the deck. We'll see. The main thing here is that Sean, our underdog, is our starting player. Of course, going second is really, really strong in the mirror. And in light of that, I would have liked to have seen both players use Flight Path instead of Snapdragons because the armor value is big. I don't know if they sided nicely for this matchup, but there are certain cards that are better on first and second, etc. And let's get into it as they do. The lacking armor on Snapdragons is unfortunately a big deal, and it will come up very fast. So, Sean's holding Oath of Loyalty, Blaze Headlong, Fire 10 at first strike, and a Bond cost 5 in hand here, which is not great. There's a bunch of 2-card 8 lines that we could be thinking about depending on what we want to arsenal, but I believe Sean takes the correct line and pitches Oath of Loyalty because it's a dump card that shouldn't go into arsenal in case we draw more of it later. Especially because we are almost certainly flicking, so might as well get 1 damage off on the dagger itself. It's also a chain link for re-equipping. You want to attack with dagger first, given the chance, unless it messes up your turn. But since it's turn 0 and we have a bad-ish hand anyway, doesn't really matter. And, you know, there's a couple of decisions we could be doing here. We could just send Oath Loyalty, Blaze Headlong, flick, pitch a card, re-equip, call it a day. But again, there's a couple upsides to testing Jordan's hand, because what if it's full of 2 blocks? Then we can just leak an insane amount of damage, possibly. It's the main thing I would be thinking of, is how can I leak the most damage while getting a good arsenal? As I said before, I think just sending the dagger is correct. And at this point, we are very happy whatever happens. We expect, at least I would expect, to not get a block here, because if our opponent blocks this with a card from hand and then we have some insane hand, then they just kind of lose the game on the spot because of how much we get to leak and draw from Mask. But here's our first big thing, is that we see the second player, Cindra, greed very hard. Using any card from hand to block 1 damage, only leaving up 3 more for the rest of our hand is a terrible, terrible idea. That's very dangerous. Now, sometimes it's correct. If our hand is completely unplayable, then this will save 1 life. And 1 life matters. That is something that can happen. It also blocks our first chain link, but let's worry about that later. The issue with that is that now we are only holding up 3 cards to block with. The opponent presumably knows that we are not a very good deck at blocking. And now they are, depending on what's in our opponent's hand, they are salivating and seeing if they can just kill us here. I exaggerate. It's not gonna deal for 40, but you know. And we already sequenced out this turn. We know Fire Planet comes next. And we see what we get as a block. We know that we are gonna play Blaze Headlong next for 5. And we know what we are arsenaling, because otherwise we don't get the Fire Planet damage. So seeing this free block, it should make us think. The Throw Dagger is the blue that every Cindra deck has, regardless of how it's built, because it's simply the best card in the deck, assuming that we are playing an aggressive line where we don't expect the opponent to block the dagger throw randomly with some equipment or whatnot. So it just draws a card, deals the damage, and keeps Mom alive. And our second chain link, the first time we attacked for free, it's the free block that we get. If Jordan held a Oath of Loyalty, any free head jab that blocks for free, anything else that has free block on it, that would have blocked before Throw Dagger does. So I immediately question what Jordan has in hand. Is there even a second free block? But regardless of considerations like that, we flick here. The reason we flick here is that we know for a fact we have 2 more cards in hand. We've seen them. They are our cards. And we know that we are attacking with Blaze Headlong for 5 next. We don't just flick here, we get a resource. The reason for that is that if we get the resource, we always find a use for it. Either playing the card or re-equipping once we have 2 Draconic Chain Links, using the third one arsenaling our last card, the 1 for 5. Flicking also makes it so that this chain link has hit, and since we're about to show 5 go again to our opponent who may or may not have 5 block in hand, we invite some devastating errors, especially because of the very greedy block we saw in the start. So we have to flick here. Now, this is not what happens. We move on to the next attack, sadly. But living for a second in the alternate reality where we flicked and gain a resource. Now Jordan is looking at the 2 cards, our second player Cindra, and he has to decide how to block this, if at all. We are threatening 5. We have an action point afterwards. We are floating a resource in my imaginary world of better turn 0 with the same cards. And we are asking some really serious questions here, because Fire Tenet has hit. This might hit, and if that's the case, our card we are holding up, it could be another attack. So it's a very difficult decision what to do here exactly from Jordan. Maybe it's always correct to block, but I don't know. And I don't think it's important, because as it turns out, our first player Cindra is holding 2 blocks at this point. And so Blaze Headlong has just now hit. With this, we would have both Fire Planet hit with the flick, Blaze Headlong hit naturally, and we would be floating a resource in this alternate reality, and we could play our 5 for 1 resource card. And our opponent literally doesn't have the block value unless they give us every single piece of equipment to block it, guaranteeing the Mask of Momentum trigger. So we would still get an arsenal and dealing up to 5 damage just straight up as a leak. It would be a massive blowout. It would be the sort of thing that a second player gets as advantage, not the first player. So we would no longer be the underdog, having been forced to go second. Alternatively, if our opponent did have the free block, and they blocked free on either the Blaze Headlong or the second attack or whatever, the 1 resource was either used on the attack, or we could have equipped so that we are not down 1 kunai for next turn. We might need it for whatever reason. So, instead of leaking, say, 6 damage, 1 from the flick, 5 from hitting with one of the 2 5 attack cards that we are likely playing on turn 0 and arsenaling a random card, we arsenaled the 1 for 5, which is not the best thing to arsenal, because we are worried about getting a fealty. We are down a dagger, and while our opponent had to discard every single card last turn, 4 random cards in Cindra is probably pretty good if they get to go second with only 2 life leaked. Then, Jordan also doesn't draw an awesome hand here. Jordan has Art of Dragon Blood, Cut Through, Ancestral Empowerment, and some other card I can't quite remember right now. I believe it's Hot on Their Heels. Which is, again, not the easiest to sequence hand. A lot could go differently. But given that we are, given that we decided to greed on the previous turn's blocks, blocking a dagger with our 2-block, I would assume that the same kind of strategy would greed here. Starting with cut through, we could sequence this turn by flicking a knife on it to give it go again and +1. Then that would give us a resource to attack with a dagger. Then we could use Hot on Their Heels, give it +1 and draw a card with Ancestral Empowerment, or maybe even play it on the cut through previously. And then our Art of Dragonblood can come in for 4 at the end. Whatever we draw, the arsenal. Alternatively, if we draw something good, we can sequence in between the Art of Dragonblood and the Hot on Their Heels. We can play that, of course. But this line is assuming the opponent doesn't hold a shelter, or some equally annoying 1 point of block prevention for our Flick Knife. Deals, what is this, 8, 12, 13, 14 damage, or threatens that much, and we get to definitely arsenal something. Potentially it's even higher, depending on what we draw off of Ancestral. I believe that to be the best line. The issue is that it's somewhat risky, so I understand why one wouldn't take it. But the line we end up doing feels genuinely terrible instead. We pitch Art of Dragonblood to attack with dagger. Attacking with dagger, good. This makes our cut through online. This makes our Hot on Their Heels online. The issue now is that we pitched a 4 attack to get 1 resource, when we could have used our vest to gain that resource, attacking with a card that would have let us immediately pressure the life totals. It's not nearly as nice, because now we're only holding up 2 cards. We still have Flick Knives, we have our Ancestral for a trick, but we have given up 4 damage for 1 resource. We play Ancestral, and we draw into Throw Dagger. Woohoo! Awesome. Now it's 4, and now we get our mark off. Our Throw Dagger could pay for a dagger, of course, so that we don't have to use our vest. Alternatively, we can play it to draw a card and extend our Mask of Momentum chain even longer. There's very many ways we can play it here. But let's return to the reality that actually happened. We attack for 4 go again. Makes sense. This is threatening Mask of Momentum. This is just a good time to do this. The only issue we have is that we are about to be short 1 resource to re-equip our dagger. And if this gets blocked, we have to play Throw Dagger hoping to draw an action card that attacks. Remember, we pitched 1 of those. Then we could have sequenced this so that we have it at the end, whatever else we draw, as 1 more attack. Now, from Sean's side, the opponent is threatening us too much. Holding Oath of Loyalty, Breaking Point, and some other Draconic attack. I think this is just good enough. I think we have to take this 4 and hope our attack back is strong enough. Because we are trying to win. If we just try not to lose, then we give away... Oh, it's cut through. Well, in that case, it's not as nice. We happen to be paid off, though, because Jordan draws a sink below. There's no way to continue the chain for them, so they are forced to just arsenal. I think at this point, it's Flick Knives, Activate Vest, re-equip both daggers here, I think is correct, personally. So I don't like that we don't do that, but we are holding up the full vest and we get to see arsenal a sink. It's not terrible. Now, the issue is that we kept, as Sean, going back into this next turn, we kept the 4 attack go again without any sort of follow through. Sync billowing this from the opponent is a super easy play, and the reason they stopped last turn is probably because they drew something that's unconvertible, so we immediately get punished for our blocking decisions. And if you recall, we had a line available that would have re-equipped our dagger earlier. We would have to right now. We could flick again for another resource to send 5 more damage. There are reasons for not doing that. It is a very aggressive, very greedy line, but we are the underdog. We have to pressure the other Cindra. We have to do stuff. Otherwise, we are just slowly bleeding out because they have tempo on us and they'll just Mask of Momentum us to death. Sadly, we don't have that, and we can't go down to 0 daggers. That's an absolute travesty. So, we just pass back after 4 go again. Oath of Loyalty for 4 go again is not terrible, but given the rest of the hand, this is not a good line. Or maybe I shouldn't say it's not a good line, but it's a very sad line, because the best we can do from here is just play Ignite, attack with Dagger, and Lava Burst. We will almost certainly waste our Mask of Momentum draw if we even get it. Since Sean is not blocking anything here, we are somewhat confident that we'll get a good time here. But that's because they showed us Snapdragons. If Sean had Flight Path, like Jordan does, they could just block 1 here on this. We don't have our second dagger available to flick, so this will just be blocked and our Mask of Momentum is over. It's not a good time. Just that 1 block here would have cost us a whole card. Snapdragons is a good card, of course, but especially in the mirror, that 1 block can be an intense amount of difference. In this case, we are paid off. We just get the hit, and so we can play out our Lava Burst. It's not what we end up doing. We end up using the fealty on Art of Dragon Blood here. Since our opponent is not blocking at all, it seems, it makes perfect sense to keep attacking. But it's also... We could have had this available next turn for our starter if we didn't use the fealty. Of course, that way we are wasting our Mask of Momentum, so I come back to being forced to play Oath of Loyalty first. It's a reason I don't like that card. Thankfully, we are one of the best players of Cindra in the world, so we draw a Brand, which is another starter we can put in our arsenal. Amazing. We attack for 5, like re-equip, go to next turn. We are winning really hard at this point. We are up 18. It's awesome. Now, we look at Sean's position. Why didn't he attack? Why didn't he block any of this stuff? Especially that dagger, maybe even with a whole card. Well, we'll find out together. Unfortunately, Sean is playing a Ronin Renegade. Don't do that. Any blue is better than a Ronin Renegade. Play a Titanium Bubble instead. It attacks for free go again. It does do that, yes. However, it's not any better than floating a resource and having our dagger attack. Especially with our arsenal holding 1 resource in it. 1 resource card in it. No blocks declared. We would really like to see some resource cards and some other stuff. We would like to know what this card is in our Ancestral. So we just get the 1 value, draw a new card. And we do not get paid off, sadly. We draw into a yellow Brand. We already had a red Brand, so this is a complete waste. It's at least 2 damage. And now we can save our Vest resource that we were planning on using on playing our Art of Dragonfire from the arsenal. But pitching a yellow is sad. The same way playing it out is. I'm not a fan of Yellow Brand. I see why it's in the deck. It's better than a Ronin Renegade after all. But at this point we are in a little bit of a bind. We've hit our first hit. We would really like to get a second hit. And we would really like to not offer a dagger, because Flight Path would immediately end our Mask of Momentum chain, and then we are in a bind. Then suddenly we have some issues we have to work out. Maybe we are forced to use our Snapdragons. Maybe we are in a terrible position just in general. Personally, I think it's play Yellow Brand time. The reason for that is if it gets blocked, unlikely. Then we still get to flick, get our resource, and play out our fire with a brand. And at that point, whether we draw off of Mask or not, we can get go again. And maybe play out the Lava Burst, maybe have an even bigger turn based on what we draw off of Mask. If the brand doesn't get blocked, we can consider simply pitching one of our cards, probably the other red brand, for the Art of Dragon Fire, and then flick on that to extend the chain if that gets blocked, and then play out Lava Burst. Probably give it a go again either case to play Lava Burst. But sadly, our opponent plays the correct footwear, and we decide to pitch for the dagger, so our turn just ends here for its on-hit value anyway. One block. Worth a card. We have no way of flicking here in a nice way. The one resource we want to save. So at this point, we are very sad and we just have to play the brand. Let's just skip ahead to the decision. Free go again from the brand. Since our only following play we can really make is the Art of Dragon Fire, this of course has to happen. Jordan is not gonna block here. There's no point. Mask of Momentum is broken. There's no one hit. So now we spend the one resource. We attack with Art of Dragon Fire. Just makes sense. For some reason we flick. We are now in the area that I didn't precisely check. There's actually very little reason to flick here. I am extremely confused why we would do that. Well, I guess it allows us to re-equip right now for free, attack with a dagger for 1, take a resource from West, and then threaten Mask of Momentum on the fire, but we lost 2 damage to do so from the fire's activation with the brand. We are not actually threatening more Mask of Momentum triggers this turn than we did previously, unless we save the Snapdragons. But why would we save the Snapdragons? We have 2 Enders in hand. If we draw another card, there's simply no point to it after the fire. Yeah, this decision confuses me. Yeah, this flick doesn't actually gain any value. The only thing it allows us to do is attack again with dagger. Again, it's not even more damage because we don't hold a fealty, so the Art of Dragon Fire won't fire for 2. This also uses up our resource, so we are stressed on our Vest. Also, we do need to get that resource. Preferably on the flick, because this dagger could have been blocked and then our turn just ends completely. We could have played, of course, Lava, but then it does nothing, it's just 5. This line is very dangerous and not nearly as good as just playing out our cards. We decide to attack with Lava Burst. We are trying to really get extra value from our Art of Dragon Fire, but we played a brand. We could have just done that. This further confuses me, especially because we are floating the 1. We are telling Jordan it doesn't matter if he blocks this or not. We are gonna play another attack, or we wasted a Vest resource for nothing. And let's not forget, this is for Mask of Momentum. If this hits, we still have to break Snapdragons, or we just IP ourselves 1. The players are discussing the play. Yep, we are giving it go again. It's an attack reaction. Imagine giving it go against an instant after the hit. We drew a Burning Blade Dance. On hit +1, good card to play here. Does something. And then we attack for 5. It is attacking for 5, but there's no on hit, and Jordan is holding up 5 cards. Unless there's a sink below or some other purely defensive card in there, we can expect to die going into next turn in Sean's position. Otherwise, since we played such a risky line, Jordan could have stopped us in so many places. Oh my, Jordan had a sink below, and I guess we are intending to Arsenal that. Alright, so we start with Brand from Arsenal. We saved it to have a starter. It's also a good thing to use if we have any sort of fealty payoff. Then we do Hot on Their Heels for 3 more mark on hit. Good. Seems alright. Not a lot of things to criticize so far. Alright, so far we've hit everything. Fantastic. Yep, for go again. We have Flick Up. This is drawing off of Mask, or our next attack will. Sink below is played. Okay. It could be a verse card that doesn't let us sink, but no, we play sink below. We decide not to sink. Then Cindra flicks. So it's still a hit. Then we discard a Shelter from the Storm for 1 value. That's an interesting decision. This ends the Mask of Momentum chain, yes. But now we just used 2 cards on 6 value. Congratulations us. This is not a good outcome for Sean. Sean has denied the fealty. Alright. But since Jordan was planning to Arsenal the sink below anyway, it do not... Oh! Right, the attack hit. This is a complete self-goal to have played out those shelters the way we did. It's simply not good. Alright, so let's go back. Not that I had some more time to get over the shock. Not blocking the brand makes perfect sense. When our opponent sends Hot on Their Heels as the second attack, and we hold 2 shelters, we don't get hit by Hot on Their Heels. We simply play Shelter, block the mark, make sure that even an Ancestral doesn't scam us into having a Mask drawn on us. Then our opponent, it turns out, sends Blaze Headlong. We block that for 4. Maybe give the 1 armor from our boots that we have, because we play the correct boot. If we are very scared of some kind of +1 on Blaze Headlong, but there's very few cards that can buff Blaze Headlong at attack reaction speed. Expose, Rake Over the Coals, but Expose is not run in red, because it's a no-block blue, even though it's better than Ronin Renegade, like all blues are. And Rake Over the Coals would have been played on the brand chain link, since it would have been 3 damage by now instead of 1 and the cutesy trick. So we can rest easy and play our second shelter. At this point, we've gained 7 value from them, and we've stopped our opponent's ability to draw from Mask of Momentum. Instead, we play out 1 shelter and we discard the other one to 1 flick and get a second value off of it when they play Lava Burst. Taking 9 3 from Brand, 5 from Lava Burst, and 1 from Flick is preferable to taking 6 from the 2 first head jabs, 7 for flicking, and... well, sorry, we blocked that, so 6, and then 4 more 10 from Lava Burst. Not necessarily a big deal, but it would have stopped our opponent's turn earlier, and it's just harder to play against if we have 2 good blocks for the second and the third chain link than holding up a cutesy trick like discarding Shelter when they flick. It's simply not as good. Alright, let's go back to our counter-offensive, which is 1 Ravenous Rebel for 4 go again. Now, Jordan holds the sink below. Just sink below this. Fix our hand, discard the terrible Ronin Renegade and get a better card instead, unless it's our only starter. And yes, we do! Fantastic. And then our opponent plays Snatch. Now this can be annoying. However, it does not matter in any way. So let's take a look at our own hand. We are holding Snatch, we are holding... what is that? I believe that's the Devotion card, 1/4/4, make a fealty. I can't see the other cards, it's fine. So we are gonna be presenting at least 16 here. It's that simple. We have our 1 flick, we have 3 cards that hit for 4, and even if we just have a head jab, that's 16. Our opponent has to give us at least 6 blocking value, or we lose the game on this, or they lose the game on the spot. They got to Arsenal from Snatch, and we correctly let them to. It doesn't matter, because from here on out we just have full tempo, and we can ask for all of their cards for the rest of the game. So 4 go again. Here we go. Play Ravel. Yeah, Sean's hand is not blocking very well. No. We would like to flick here, so Ronin Renegade, unsavory as it is the correct chain link here. We can flick on it to gain a resource. Now, as Sean, we are probably forced to block here, given that 2 cards are held up and we probably have to stop Mask of Momentum to still be in the game. It's hard to tell. It's a very difficult position, but it sort of doesn't matter what Sean does. Yeah. Yep, correct. We get our second fealty. When we flicked, we should remove 1 of the daggers. For some reason, we are choosing not to gain the fealty. Is that correct? We already had 1. Yeah, the fealty count should be going up to 2. Now, as Sean here, sitting at 2, you have to block. You have to block something. Now, Flick was already used, so blocking the whole thing to stop Mask of Momentum, not a terrible idea. Genuinely a pretty good time. We do hold a free block, and we don't need it. We don't have a fealty, so might as well give that and Vest. Giving up Mask is a very interesting decision. I would not do that. That is a terrible call. Why would you do this, my friend? I guess we'll see later. And now we mess up. Jordan is supposed to pop 1 of the 2 fealties he has to make this Draconic. That gives us our 3rd chain link that is Draconic for re-equipping. And it also gives us the ability to give this go again with Dragon's Killer Flight Path. Which is exactly the sort of threat that we need to present in this situation. Our opponent is down to 3 cards. They gave up Mask of Momentum. At this point, unless they give us literally all 4 cards, sorry, not literally all 4 cards, literally a whole 4 blocks, which is at least a free block and an equipment, or 2 cards from hand, we can just give this go again and keep going. Probably they'll give us cards. They are not going to block this for free, because going down to 1 and giving a card is a terrible proposition. But giving this the ability to go again and re-equip and still have 1 fealty floating, again, we missed it from Devotion, is just an incredibly more powerful play. Even going down to 0 fealty, I think it's worth to be able to have both daggers up, though I don't know how many blues we play. If our opponent is at 2 and we have daggers and flick knives up, then each dagger is for lethal. And them being at 2 means that we should just be putting them in a position where we have both daggers up and they lose as many cards as they can. But now we don't have that option. We are a resource short for re-equipping, and our turn is over regardless of this hitting. We get a free block and the armor, as expected. For some reason, we have both daggers. Did we re-equip? How did we re-equip? We are not floating any resources. We've only attacked with 2 Draconic Chainlinks. Did we just cheat? Or maybe they declared the fealtying in voice. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it was played perfectly. Alright, Ignite. Good start. Unfortunately, it does very little in this position, as Jordan is at a glorious, luxurious 11 life. Take 1 more for the kunai. Give 1 block, because at this point the game is more or less over. In case we cared about hitting with the kunai, now we don't. I'm not sure actually that's correct. I think I much prefer holding the 1 block for some kind of on-hit I might care about, a snatch or anything else coming up right after the kunai, since the vest is already gone. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, but I think I would have held off on the vest. Free go again. On hit mark. I don't think this matters. Depending on Jordan's hand, he could block or just take it. The game is sadly very over, so little to comment at this point. Now, we should be flicking if this was the last chain link, but we have a Ravenous Rabble to end it with. Yes. This, sadly, is putting our opponent at 1, but does nothing else. We can give Mask of Momentum as Jordan, and we should. We are never gonna hit 3 times in a row again. Yep, we go down to 3, and now we just finish off the motions. Four go again. Free go again. Free go again. 4 go again, GG. In general, it's not a terribly played game, and I hope my negativity is taken as the educational intent that I have. Again, no disrespect to the players. I'm sitting at home, comfy and rested. They are playing their second very difficult game of the day at least, unless it's also the top 8 being also on the same day as the second day. So, to be clear here, this is not like a put down of these players. Instead, I would like to point out how there was a lot of ways in which this game was played sloppily, and that why I have a lot of bias here, I hope that some of you will have an easier time playing your games from here on out with what I have said. So, GG, bye-bye.